From the beginning, the issue of health care reform has been fraught territory for journalists, including what exactly to call it. So is it any wonder then why the public still remains confused about exactly what the law is?
In the beginning, it had no name.
A heated debate over health care reform.
But with the stroke of a pen, it officially became the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. While that mouthful of a moniker never caught on with the media, neither did the Obamacare label used by critics.
The health care reform law.
The health care reform law.
But then a funny thing happened.
If you repeal Obamacare, and I have become fond of this term, Obamacare.
After President Obama embraced the term in last year's election, the media did too.
Obamacare came online and took effect.
Week 2 of the Obamacare rollout.
But now that the federal shutdown has again politicized the term Obamacare, both NPR and the Associated Press are using more references to the Affordable Care Act. Confused? So is the public.
You think the Affordable Care Act is a better plan than Obamacare?
Better, but I'm not happy with that either.
So the Affordable Care Act is more affordable than Obamacare?
Just the name says it all.
Right.
Shame on them or shame on us?
I have to say, I never made the transition. I don't know about you, Kelly, but I never felt comfortable calling it Obamacare. And I probably shortened it to the National Health Law.
I used it after President Obama did, but ended up really interestingly in a very heated discussion at my book club just a week ago, like, what is that? Don't be okay. So, but you know, when the president says it, then you feel like, well, okay. But I don't like it, but I thought he was sanctioning it. But it has been pointed out that he has not used it now for many, many weeks and days, and that's deliberate. So I take a cue from that and go back to where I was before.
You know, originally we were using Obamacare when the law was first passed, and I was got a sanction from our corporate headquarters.
Oh, really?
That, yeah, that's politicized, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then, but when the president himself seemed to bless the term, it did kind of open up the floodgates. Exactly to your point. But I think the real way to describe it, because I do think one can make an argument that the official name of the law is propaganda, and Obamacare has, these negatives. That healthcare reform, national healthcare reform, is a perfectly fine descriptor for what it is. It doesn't need to be one thing or another. We do love our shorthand, and I hate having the political correct police take away Obamacare from us. But national healthcare reform is fine. I mean, people get that.
As opposed to Affordable Care Act.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I'll take a pass on Obamacare for a moment, because I really want to criticize the Associated Press for saying we're not going to use Affordable Care Act, which is only the name of it, because that would politicize it too. It makes it sound maybe better than it really is. Well, that's the name of it. I mean, why don't we refuse to use the term Social Security? After all, maybe it's neither social nor secure.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with taking the proper name of it and getting it through people's heads. That's what.
Well, that's pejorative.
That's what Obamacare is. It's the Affordable Care Act.
I agree with you. Yeah,
well, but even if you call it the Health Reform Act, reform is a loaded word, because there are many who would tell you this is not reform, this is the opposite, this is backwards, whatever is unreformed. So you get in trouble a little bit there. I think maybe what we need to do is go back to when you name the bill after who the sponsor was. Now, does anybody know who the two principal sponsors were of the Affordable Care Act?
Oh, that's a good idea.
We got Dodd-Frank. That's about the only bill that I know of recently.
The other one, Glass-Steagall.
Yeah, Glass-Steagall, that's right. That goes back to the 1930s.
Oxy-Sarbanes.
That's what we used to do. And maybe that's the answer. What the press needs to go back and find, who were those sponsors, and we'll call it that, and then we're done.
Well, what could also
Who were the two?
I have no idea.
I thought you were going to tell us. Me too.
And they won't admit it.
It wasn't Ted Cruz. How about that?
One can argue that to the victor go the rhetorical spoils. Democrats put it through. The Affordable Care Act is what they named it. That's what we get.
Yeah, and the point is that we use that Jimmy Kimmel sound bites, but that was hilarious, because if you said Obamacare versus Affordable Care Act, people didn't know. They thought there were two different things, and that's partly the media's fault. I mean, we've contributed to that by using so many different monikers for the.
And they had a negative response to Obamacare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Guess who they voted for?
Yes, they had a negative response.
They considered that was pejorative because it was Obama.
Exactly.
But there was Romney Care came up in the last election also.
Right.
So
Yes.
you know,
It
that
didn't
got
stick.
That was
thrown in.
positive.
Yeah. Right.